Welcome to the Hello Sunday podcast with me, Nikki Hayden. This is the podcast that discusses everything self-development, spirituality and sobriety, and it wouldn't be me without a little sprinkling of humour. Whether you are just starting out on your journey of self-development or have been exploring these topics for years, are completely alcohol-free or just curious about living a more sober lifestyle, this is the podcast for you. Each week, I'll be exploring topics in both solo episodes and with some amazing guest experts. So if you like what you hear, then please subscribe, rate and review. So with that said, let's dive into today's episode. Hello, welcome back to another episode of Hello Sunday. If you're new here, welcome. And if you are new here, where have you been? We're on episode, I want to say like 60 now. I'll know when I edit this because I've got a list of the episodes, so I'll know exactly what number it is. But I think off the top of my head, it might be episode 60. So welcome, and I'm glad that you found us. I'm glad that you are here. And if you're an OG and you've been here for a while, welcome back, and apologies. Apologies that I missed an episode. Well, actually, I say apologies. There was a reason. And if you're on my podcast socials, on the podcast socials on Instagram, then you'll know that unfortunately we've had quite a tricky, challenging time as a family lately. It's not yet resolved. There's still a lot going on, and I'll chat through that in a moment. But yeah, in essence, it just meant that I had absolutely zero time to record, and maybe another week coming up like that. So I'm going to try and pre-record. I don't really like to do that because I like to update you. Not that you probably care, but what's going on in my life and things that maybe I've promised to fill you in on, things that I've done, events, etc. And that can't really happen in a pre-record because obviously you don't know what's going to have happened or where you're going to be. And I think there was an episode that I pre-recorded a while ago and something had happened in the world at the time, and I ended up not using it because I thought I can't not talk about that or address it. So it can be quite tricky, but I am going to do my best not to miss an episode again, this side of Christmas at least. But yeah, so we've had a very, very sick nan. She is, as I've mentioned on here before, she's a friend of the podcast. She's 96 now and doing incredibly well, but she just needs a lot more care and a lot more just time. And there's a lot happened. She's had a lot of different infections and illnesses. And I think we've just realised now that she needs a lot more care than we thought. So she's still in hospital. She's doing well. But yeah, there's just been a lot of emotional support that's been needed from and given to my family. And also, I don't know what people's relationships are with their grandparents, but my nan is like a second mum to me. She's always been there. She's always been somebody that I have grown up with and been to stay with. And she's always lived pretty much just around the corner from us. Well, in my adult life anyway. So I've always been around her a lot. And, you know, it's not somebody that I don't see often or isn't in my life. So it has been really difficult, really tough. And also for anyone that supported their parent through having issues with their parents or their grandparents or, you know, loss, it's really difficult because seeing your parents in that situation is hard, you know, and there's sometimes not a lot that you can do. So I know that they're always really grateful when I go back and stay, and I extended the trip this time just because, well, I actually went down as a bit of a surprise because my mum was having some eye surgery and it meant that she wasn't going to be able to drive or go and help out with Nan. And it just so happened that actually when I got there, she was really poorly anyway, my Nan. So anyway, long story short, it's still ongoing, but it just meant that I wasn't able to record because I was down in Birmingham. I didn't have my microphone, and also it just wouldn't have been a good vibe, let's be honest. Nobody wants to hear me miserable and in a state of high functioning anxiety trying to balance and juggle a business and all of that kind of stressful stuff. So I chose to skip a week, and I'm back today, and I'm not going to lie, I'm buzzing. I think it might have been the last episode that I said this. I don't know whether it's just because I get excited to record or I don't know really, but I woke up in the best mood. It just feels so good. So I thought, do you know what? Strike whilst the iron's hot. You want good vibes. I want good vibes. Let's just dive in and utilize that good energy, and hopefully that comes through to you. What else has been happening? To be honest, not a huge amount. That has taken up quite a big proportion of my time. We have been gradually buying more Christmas decorations, starting to plan out what we're going to do to decorate the house this year, getting into the festive spirit. I'm somebody that would, the second bonfire night's over, would go straight balls deep into Christmas. My husband, not so much. So he's quite keen to leave it until the end of November, beginning of December. But we're nearly there now, aren't we? I'm pretty sure I can, bring in a wreath and garland or two and just sneak them in whilst he's not looking. So that's exciting. I love this time of year. I love this time of year so, so much. And actually, the last couple of years, so I think it was last year, I did a book in the book club called Calm Christmas. And oh my gosh, I'm quite an organised person anyway, but it totally changed my perspective on Christmas. And so now I try and get all of my buying and wrapping done in November. Has been a bit trickier this year with the Nan situation, but we're going to make it work somehow. And then December is just for enjoying the season, spending time with people, not having to stress about. We are lucky because we haven't got a huge family to buy for, and we always do go to our parents for Christmas, so we're not actually hosting. I'm sure if I was hosting, it would be a whole different story. But yeah, it's nice then to just be able to kind of enjoy stuff. So if you're somebody that is scrabbling around the week before Christmas, still making lists and buying stuff, it comes around every year and you can be more organised about it. And it honestly changed my whole Christmas kind of experience in doing that, because it just meant that I was so much more relaxed, able to enjoy stuff. I was able to support other people, go to more things, like really make the most of the time without thinking, oh God, I've got to go and do Christmas shopping and do the wrapping and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I can highly, highly, highly recommend. It might feel crazy to do it an entire month in advance, but you'll thank me later. So what are we chatting about this week? Well, what I was going to talk about actually was, to be honest, it was that kind of feeling that I've just described, that kind of excited for life feeling, which, don't get me wrong, I think that has a really important place, and it's something that I do definitely want to elaborate more on. But that kind of feeling of, nothing's really happening today. I'm working, I'm going to the gym, I'm recording. That part's exciting. But to be honest, the majority of my day is kind of same. But I've got that excited for life feeling. And it's a phrase that me and my husband say quite a lot, where you just get excited for the future and you just get excited for the little things. And it might just be having a cup of coffee in bed, or, it's in essence, it's romanticising your life and getting excited for and making the most of the little things and the small things. So I was going to talk about that, but something's cropped up quite a few times this last week. And I thought, you know what? When that happens, it's normally because it's something that not only am I experiencing and needing to hear and talk about, but it's something that's coming up for other people as well. And so I wanted to share about adding value to and creating, I guess, like creating, I don't really know how else to say it, creating value for others. It's actually a question that is in the journal that I use with my business mentoring group. And it's a really simple question. So in the morning, we do a check-in, which is writing a list of stuff you need to get done for that day, which includes things like business goals, personal goals, fitness goals. So it could be something like cleaning the kitchen, going to the gym. It could be that you want to book 2 new business meetings. It could be that you want to record a podcast. It could be anything. So we make a list and then we answer some questions about how we're going to get into the right state, how we're going to manage our energy, how we're going to basically create the circumstances for the day to enable us to do that. Now, don't get me wrong, just because you do this, it doesn't mean that your day always goes swimmingly and to plan, but it means that you've got a vision for the day rather than just thinking about, flying by the seat of your pants and then hoping for the best. And then at the end of the day, we check in with the group and let them know what we've achieved and what we haven't, and we're really honest. But there's also a series of questions in our journal then, which are like reflections. So what worked and what didn't, what we need to carry over to tomorrow. There's questions about what we are, what we can get excited about for the future, how we're going to wind down that day for bed to ensure that we get good sleep and good rest, because that is just as important as setting your day up in the morning. It's going to bed and doing that stuff the night before. And then one of the questions in there, which I'd never really asked myself, but it's such a pivotal, poignant question, is who did I add value to today? And in having that question at the end of the day, it started making me think at the beginning of the day who I can add value to. Now, some days it will be a case of looking at my diary and knowing that I've got calls in with potential candidates, potential clients. Maybe I'm meeting a friend. There's sometimes an obvious opportunity in the day for me to add value to someone. But some days, like today, when I haven't got a huge amount booked in my diary and I'm actually trying to create things today, so create this podcast, create the opportunities within my business, some days you really have to think about how you can create that value. And for instance, I'd like to think that I'm creating value now for you guys listening, but also it could be as simple as voice noting a friend. It could be as simple as me checking in with my mum today and seeing what support she needs because of the situation with my nan, her mum. It could be reaching out to somebody in business that I know has been struggling and seeing how they're doing, or offering them some guidance or support. One of my really good friends, who's also got her own business, messaged me the other day and said, my coach is doing some free clarity calls for next year. They're 60 minutes. She's doing them this side of Christmas. Do you want me to put your name forward? And that was massive value to me, because that is an incredibly expensive resource that at this point in time I don't have access to. And so that was creating such value for me that she had to do zero in terms of, it wasn't a financial outlay for her. It was minimal effort, but it added so much value to me. And I was really on the receiving end of somebody that had thought about me, and it felt good, especially this time of year. There's a lot of people that can feel lonely, or like people don't think about them, or like they're an afterthought. If you've not got a family or a big family, Christmas can not be a happy time. And it's just really repositioned in my mind what I do through the day, and it not all being about me. For those of you that are regular listeners to the show, or maybe you know me personally, you won't have been able to get away without hearing me talk about Simprove. Simprove is a scientifically backed, water-based probiotic drink. You drink it daily, and it has been scientifically proven to help with things like bloating, IBS symptoms, pain. It was actually a dietitian friend of mine that introduced it to me last year, and I honestly wouldn't be without it now. It's helped with my energy, with my bloating, it's helped with my immune system, and also things like my skin. The list is honestly endless. Now, I have got a code for you. So if you'd like to try Simprove, you can get 50%, that's a massive 50% off your first 3 month subscription by going on to simprove.com and putting in the code Nikki50. That's NIKKI50, or clicking the link in the show notes. And I've seen this play out so often with volunteering. I was talking to a candidate the other day, and she was talking about how she'd been to a monkey sanctuary in South Africa to volunteer. And she'd also done the same on a safari while she was over there. I was like, wow, what an incredible experience. You must have got so much from that. And she was like, yeah, it was brilliant, absolutely amazing. And she said, yeah, I did. But also it was so nice to give back. And I thought, wow, isn't it interesting? I just took from that, you got to experience this amazing wildlife and see them in their own, habitat, and to it was all the experience that I was taking for her. But actually, without those volunteers, those centres can't run because they can't afford to pay people a salary for every single role there. And they wouldn't be in existence if they had to do that, because the outgoings would far outweigh what they were getting in terms of income, because they rely on donations. So for her, yes, it was an amazing experience. So it was like an energy exchange, but actually she was really giving back in terms of her time, which meant that they could, for the week or two that she was there, function as a centre and as a service. And you see it a lot with people that do volunteer work in, whether it's like a charity shop or a local community project, the opportunity to give back and to create value is an energy exchange. It's not just, maybe selfishly. I think there's an episode of Friends, isn't there, where they're trying to task Phoebe with, I think it might be Ross that's trying to task Phoebe with finding a selfless act. And he's like, there isn't one, because the feeling that you get back of like doing something good and helping someone, that's like selfish. That's what makes you want to do it. And it's true, that is a thing. When I've added value to someone, I feel good when somebody tells me like, oh, thank you so much for your time, or thank you for helping me with this problem, or, advising me. It feels good. But that isn't the reason that you do it. The reason that you do it is because you genuinely want to help, or it should be. And so having this question at the end of the day has really reshaped how I plan my days. Sometimes, I'm planning in at the beginning of the day, how can I add value, rather than just reflecting at the end of the day, did I add value? And if it's a no, it's a no. And if it's a yes, it's a yes. It really does change your perspective. So this episode really isn't any like science behind it. There's no big kind of quotes or examples. It was just something that came up, and I thought, you know what, that is such an interesting concept, because there'll be people out there that just by nature are caring, giving people, the nurses of the world, the people that rescue animals, that foster children. They have just innately got in them that gene, that characteristic, that sort of personality trait that makes them super maternal or paternal, caring people that just want to give. And we've all met them, right? We've all met the people that could love a worm and could, just go over and above. And quite often it's at the detriment of looking after themselves. So that's where you do have to be careful. But actually, for most of us who are in jobs or career choices, or the way we live our lives isn't naturally just constantly giving, it is good to look at the privileged situation that we find ourselves in and ask ourselves every day, like, how can I be of service? How can I add value? We're not on this planet to just take the resources and die. We are all here to help each other. And whether that is, hopefully in the form of a podcast like this, whether it is just sharing knowledge, whether it's just reaching out to a friend that is really struggling, or whether it is taking somebody meals that's just given birth. Maybe you've got someone in your life that has recently given birth, and that they're going to be struggling to do everything, and you can take some of that load. Maybe it's babysitting for a friend's kids. Maybe it's offering to walk your family's dog, or it could be so many different ways. The ways that you can add value, you won't even be aware of. So what I'd absolutely love to invite you to do is, after this episode, whether it's today or tomorrow or this week, but I'd strike while the iron's hot if I was you, is write down all of the ways that you feel that you could add value. Maybe you are a really keen gym goer and one of your friends has mentioned that they want to start a gym program, but that they're nervous. Maybe you can offer to train with them. My husband's friend did that for him this year, and now my husband's lifting more than he is, and he's got confidence in the gym to go on his own and lift weights, and he's never stepped foot in the weight section of a gym before January, and his friend doing that has given him more than he will ever know. And it's an energy exchange because he's also helped his friend. So yeah, there's so many ways that you can help. Maybe it's business. You've got your own business and you can help somebody who's maybe getting up and running. Or maybe it's just reaching out to a friend, giving them a voice note, giving them a little motivational, talk, or asking them how they are, or just taking the load off somebody. Maybe you've got an elderly neighbour who you could help with their shopping. It doesn't have to be a massive time-consuming act every day. We're not asking you to, go and give your time to volunteer every day, but just adding value to the world. Not only does it mean that there's another good act being done that day and that there's more good in the world, but actually what it does for your own self-respect and self-worth is huge. Like the days where I struggle to think of something that I've done to add value, I probably don't go to bed feeling quite as good as myself as the days where somebody said to me, thank you so much for doing that. It's really helped me. And is that a selfish act? Maybe. Yeah, maybe like Phoebe in Friends, there's never really a truly selfless act. But it's a win-win, because whether you go away feeling good or not, that value has been added to the world. You've served, you've given somebody something, you've been selfless, or as selfless as you can with your time to help somebody else out. And honestly, what that does for you is like 10 times what going to the gym or building a business could do. Like, yes, those things will definitely show you that you're capable, but actually doing something for somebody else that gives you nothing back immediately in return in terms of like finances or actual, tangible value other than just that feel good feeling, there's nothing else that really compares to that. So what can you do today? What are the areas that you are an expert in? And actually, this is a really good exercise in just giving yourself that little bit of a G up, that little bit of reassurance, and reminding yourself that you've got so many skills, you've got so many gifts and qualities and talents to bring to the world and to offer. Me just helping my mum with my nan, like doing the stuff that she's not so keen on, like, the helping her to the toilet, helping her wash herself, that sort of stuff. I know how valuable that was, because that was like 4 days where she didn't have to do that. Am I there all the time? Can I do that every day? No. But when I am, it's good to go above and above and to really kind of like throw yourself in. So do you have an elderly relative you can help out with? Have you got a skill, or maybe you're an amazing cook and you can teach somebody else, or you can make them some meals? Maybe you're really good with a particular piece of software, or you do podcasting, or somebody in your life would benefit from that. Maybe it is just checking in with a friend, dropping them a message or a voice note, or maybe they've just been a bit quiet lately. Maybe you don't know if anything's up and you just want to check in and make sure that they're okay. That is adding value. Or maybe it's a family member who is going through a tough time, is struggling. Maybe there's something you can do for them. But every single person listening to this has value that they can bring. You have qualities, you have gifts, you have time. Sometimes it's just about time. And then at the end of each day, start asking yourself that question. Even if it's the only question that you ask yourself right now, start asking yourself the question, how did I add value today? What was it? Maybe it was as small as cleaning your partner's shoes for them, or taking the washing out of the washing machine for them because they forgot, or as in our house, neither of us like emptying the dishwasher. So if one of us empties the dishwasher, that is, a major appreciation point. We do express deep gratitude for that because it's a job that neither of us enjoy. So even if it's just something like that, add it to the list and keep a note of that stuff, write it. Add it to a list every day. So there's at least one thing that you're writing down every day. And by the end of the year, if you've done it for a whole calendar year, you're going to have at least 365 acts of kindness, pieces of value delivery that you have done, things that you've added to the world. That just makes you feel like a really good person. And it just shows you how important you are and how much you really are giving and bringing. So a bit of a different episode today. It wasn't really, I guess it is self-development. It wasn't self-development in terms of a theory or a concept. There was, like I said earlier, no real science behind it. It's just something that came up for me, and I thought it's really simple, and maybe some of you are doing this already, but it was just a real reminder to me that we've all got stuff that we can give and all got value that we can add, and sometimes you just don't realize it, and you probably are doing this every day anyway in terms of the stuff. You're just not recognizing it or journaling on it or making a note of it. So if you are already doing the stuff, or you're in, maybe an occupation that you are naturally giving and adding value, start making a note of it, because on the days when you're feeling shitty or you feel like you're not bringing a lot or not adding a lot, you can go back and be like, do you know what, I really do matter, because look at all this stuff that I've put into the world that wouldn't have existed otherwise. So I hope that's been interesting. I hope that you've taken something from it. As always, please, 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 can we not either, you can do it all if you want, but follow, give a 5-star rating. I mean, a review would be absolutely perfect. It takes 2 seconds, but at the least, a rating. It hurts so much, guys. It really, really, really does. And honestly, it is the only way that the algorithm ever shares this podcast anyway. We did have a few weeks where I got a few more and I've noticed the episode downloads going up. So it does work, definitely does. And I will love you all forever. And share it on your socials. If you've got an interesting episode or there's something that resonates, share it on your socials for other people. And I cannot wait to be back with you again next Sunday. Thanks for listening. You can find us on Instagram at HelloSundayPod, or you can email us on hellosundaypod@outlook.com. Have a great week.